Hi, my name is Adam Hogue, and I am going to be speaking about the project I chose for the Diverse Learners project. The lesson I chose to highlight is a weekly writing exercise I do with my students, a third grade class that's a mix between regular ed students and half L's. The lesson that I chose is a writing lesson, and I chose it because it's a lesson that I've been using since the beginning of the year and accumulating as a portfolio kind of assessment in their writing folders. And it involves a recognizable kind of race to respond worksheet on one side that students can build short essay, in response to a question prompt. And on the other side, the adjacent page, there's a open place for them to write their finished edited paragraph. One reason I like this project so much is because there's a lot of room for differentiation, and there's a great deal of freedom in terms of what I choose to focus on for that week's prompt. So let me talk about the materials first. In the particular lesson that I highlighted, I used my Race to Respond format, which students have been familiar with since the beginning of the year. And with it, I chose to focus on a book that we're reading as a group reading book to the class. It's a book called The Last Kids on Earth. It's part of a series. And I've been using it to help explain part of our reading curriculum, which is books in a series. And it's a book that is within the third grade uh, reading level for some of my maybe higher kids, but the book is more geared towards even third grade and up. So a lot of my L's, it's beyond their reading capabilities. Even a lot of my grade level students, most of my class is below the third grade reading level. There's about 8 students who are reading um, well above level, and there's a few that are on level, but the rest are all below. So this book I chose to do for the class for 2 reasons. One, it is interesting. It's kind of like a Walking Dead for kids. It's the last few kids on Earth, and they, fight zombies, and there's monsters from a different dimension. But why I like the book and why I chose to do it is because it's the way it's told. It's got a lot of good vocabulary that a lot of those higher level kids can really sink their teeth into, and there's some jokes and stuff that they get. But also, the book is interspersed on every page with a great deal of artwork, like comic book style artwork, to break up the writing, to help guide the narrative. And it has a lot for L's, so it has a lot of like diagrams. Like it'll take a break and say that this is this character, and it labels a whole bunch of stuff on the character. So when I read the book to the class in the morning, I just do it for a few minutes every morning right before we start our day, and they can see it on the overhead, and it's got a very visual aspect to it. You're not just listening to me read words. So I used that for this lesson, and I made a handout. I took a few of the pictures from the book, and I made each kid a packet of these excerpts. And they had to use that with their Race to Respond. They were responding to the question, in what ways are the characters of Quint and Jack different? So they had to do a contrastive analysis of these two characters. And they had their regular Race to Respond prompt. So this is good because all the students know how to do the Race to Respond. I take a little bit of time to front load how to restate the question with them as a whole class, but then right away I can jump into differentiating into my small groups. My lowest group is made up of newcomers and students who are below E reading level. So it's only really 3 kids. And I spend the most time with them, and I usually cycle them back to see me a few times in a reading block. So what I'll do is I'll get them started, usually with a lot of sentence starters. We do a lot of discussion. In this case, I did some rereading. Really making sure that they know the vocabulary that we're listening to, making sure that they know what the question's actually asking, and I get a sense from questions and phrasing questions in the right way looking for yes or no answers or looking for either or choices if they really understand, and then they can fill in the blanks using sentence frames that I create. So I get them started, and then I'm able to cycle in my other groups. And what's happening during this writing period is that each group is responding to this question. They have this race to respond worksheet. So they have to restate the question. They have to cite two pieces of evidence to support their claim or whatever they say. So in this case, they're saying, how are these two characters different? So they, depending on the group, either expect students to have, 4 ways that they're different, 3 ways that they're different. Some I have 2 ways that they're different. That would be like my lowest group. Just 2 sentences saying ways that these two characters are different. And as the groups write, they take some time, and then I call them one by one after they've had some time to write those paragraphs, to do self-editing, check for the mistakes that they can fix, and then I edit that race portion. And depending on the level of the group or the students, individual students a lot of times, is I will say, I challenge you to, and I tell them something that I want them to add to their writing. And in this way, I can really tailor the lesson and what I want the students to accomplish. I have an L who's in my highest group, and he's really a kid I would call gifted and talented, and he's able to write with a lot of good recall from the reading. He's got great comprehension. I'm able to really challenge him to go beyond. I say, oh, why do you think that? Well, why don't you give me one sentence telling me why you think that? And so I like the freedom that this lesson gives me to really differentiate and see each group for a short period of time and cycle them around. And the lesson also has a lot of freedom in that I can pair up the students. So I'll meet with the group and say, what, I want you two to sit next to each other, and you're going to write your second draft of the paragraph, and I want you each to read it to each other and make sure there's no mistakes there. Or I might have 2 students work together and say, oh, why don't you guys together come up with another reason how these characters are different, and I'll have students work in a group that way. So they're getting that sort of think, pair, share kind of model. And the last component of this lesson is I have a class Twitter account, and what I use that for is as like kind of a sharing. Sometimes at the end of the day, I'll pick out some things from NASA or from videos from different sources that are interesting things to see. But one thing I do is it connects us to the author of the book. So I have these little slips, Twitter templates, and the students can write their one sentence or thought, and I can select one, and we choose one as a class, and we share it with the author and see, maybe one day he'll tweet back at us. So I like that kind of technology component to the lesson, and I think it connects the students to the broader world out there, that, hey, we can really talk to this guy that we're reading a book by, and it's got kind of a cool connection. So in this lesson, it ends with the students who are done writing. They can either say a opinion they have of the book, or they can ask a question directed at the author. And with those students, the students sitting next to them, they can write it, they check it with each other, they share it with each other, and then they share it with me. So once again, you have that group collaboration, the think, pair, share. In a nutshell, that's a lesson I've been doing all year, and what it has given me is a nice piece of authentic assessment that has become like it's a writing portfolio. So what I have is a whole spectrum of student work from pretty much the 3rd or 2nd week of school, I forget when I started this, all the way till now. And I can, see the progress students have made, and they can as well, which is great. And it's got a huge body of work. I've been doing it pretty much every week, and I've really tweaked it, and students really know how to do it from the get-go. So it's something we just fluidly go into every Monday, and it's been going pretty good. So thank you for listening, and enjoy my project.